Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
2 certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only 2 best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
Okay, we are back with a blog, and I'm trying to remember if you told me what this is or if I have no idea.
I did. You've just forgotten.
Yep.
Like everything else, you care not at all about me.
No, but I will say I don't have the best memory. I'll admit to that.
Yeah, I know. You have to put reminders to do things 20 minutes later or else you'll forget.
I know. I'm old before my time. I have like reminders on my phone for all kinds of things.
She's left her keys hanging in her front door like multiple times.
Like on multiple
and then not been able to find them. And if that's not the most elderly person thing I've ever heard.
I'm going to fit right on into being a grandma one day.
Well, but it's problematic.
It's going to be an easy slide into that transition of life.
Okay, it's a little problematic now in your early 30s. It's ironic that I am sharing this blog from, I think it was October 2017, because it's about why you shouldn't always trust advice from experts.
Oh.
Whoops. Including us.
That's true, though.
But it is true. And I don't actually want any of you guys to just take everything I say at face value and not think for yourself. I'm all about making sure that people learn to think and make decisions and discern and trust themselves before they trust anybody else. So this is a blog where I give a few stories about why it's really important not to take everyone else's advice or word for something over your own.
Well, that's very important. And I feel like so many of my clients are doing that. And I've done it before, too. You're like, well, somebody told me I should do this. So that's what I should do, right?
I mean, yes, you've done that a lot. Mm-hmm. As a non-people pleaser, I haven't done this as much, but I think that there is a cultural expectation that there are certain professions that of people that you shouldn't question. And I give some examples of that, like doctors and lawyers, right? You shouldn't question certain people who have more education than you. And I am here to say, no, that's BS.
Yeah, it can come from people pleasing, but it can also come from, I don't know that much about that subject. Right. And they do, so I should take their word for it. Well, not always.
No, definitely not. Again, your word is always going to be paramount, even over someone more educated than you. So,
okay, well, let's hear your case for it then.
Why you shouldn't always trust advice from experts. I was sitting on the floor with my 4-month-old black lab puppy in my lap, sobbing. She was happily chewing a bone, oblivious to the fact that I was heartbroken because I was planning to give her away. Scarlett, my puppy, was a bit of a hellion. She had a habit of attacking your feet when you weren't looking, and she'd bark at you for what felt like hours without stopping. She didn't care for kids or scooters or skateboards or anything that darted around in an unpredictable fashion. If you rolled her over on her back, she would shriek and fight like a chimpanzee being murdered. I swear, I am not exaggerating. I have witnesses to that. This dog was nothing like the sweet, loving, cuddly puppy I'd imagined. She was completely unmanageable. So obviously, I brought in professional help. The dog trainer who came to my apartment only visited a few times before she pointed at Scarlett, who'd been busy attacking my feet yet again, and said, "That is not normal. You will never be able to trust this dog. She'll have to wear a muzzle around kids for the rest of her life." She suggested that I take my puppy to a shelter she knew of and start over with a different breed, something more suited to me. This woman's advice broke my heart. I couldn't imagine just giving my dog away, regardless of how difficult she was. But what else could I do? She was the expert, not me, and if she said my dog was broken, then she was right. Well, no, not so much. My parents encouraged me to get a second opinion. The new trainer rolled his eyes and said, "She'll be perfect in 3 weeks. This is actually normal for a smart, spirited Labrador." And he was right. After working with the right expert, Scarlett was a completely different dog than she had been the month before. That was 7 years ago. She still doesn't love weird things with wheels, but she happily plays with babies and kids of all sizes and loves rolling over and getting belly rubs. No screeching necessary. Sometimes I think about how I almost gave her away, and I shudder because how many people did take that terrible dog trainer's advice? How many perfectly decent dogs ended up homeless or worse because of her? The truth is, this kind of stuff happens all the time. We put our faith in experts simply because we assume that they're more knowledgeable and educated and dismiss our own intuition, often to disastrous ends. Sometimes parts just wear out. A few months ago, my mom was experiencing consistent knee pain. It wasn't debilitating, but it was enough that she knew something was off. She went to her general practitioner who took a look at it without bothering to give her an x-ray and said, it's just old age. Parts wear out. Take some painkillers. My mom, even though she's in her 50s and I'm in my 30s, is probably in way better shape than me. She's a lifelong athlete who plays tennis competitively, so to be told that her knee was just wearing out was a huge blow. It might mean giving up something she loves, something that makes her who she is. Even though she was worried that her doctor was right, she couldn't dismiss the feeling that something felt wrong. So she went to an orthopedic surgeon who did take an x-ray and said, "You've torn your meniscus, but thankfully we can just do a non-invasive surgery and you'll be recovered in no time." Today, her knees are fine. And she's still playing tennis all weekend long. I'm pretty sure she'll still be running circles around people on the court into her 80s. You shouldn't be a hermit. Meg, one of our awesome former PPVE participants, recently sat down with a job coach, hoping for some advice about how to search for good employers and how to stand out when she does find a good one. She said, "When I brought up that I'd like to work remotely, the job coach suggested that, well, because of my tendency to be a hermit and avoid people, I should work in an office with other people. Thing is, I'd actually prefer to work from home or a public space and use my free time to socialize. But I'm tempted to take the coach's advice because now I'm second-guessing myself." As a coach, there is nothing that makes my blood boil quite like bad coaching. Actually, let's be honest. What Meg experienced was not coaching. It was advice, and not very good advice at that. Advice is what happens when someone tells you what they think you should do, but based on their worldview and experiences. It often doesn't take your preferences, personality, values, or experiences into account at all. Coaching is what happens when someone treats you as the expert on your own life, listens without an agenda, and asks you questions, often that you haven't realized you need to be asking yourself, that help tease out what's right and aligned for you. This job coach completely dismissed the fact that Meg is an introvert who feels genuinely good about the prospect of working remotely. Instead of actually listening to Meg, she labeled Meg as a hermit and told her that her preference was wrong. All of which makes Meg unnecessarily question her own desires and feel ashamed of who she is, which is gross. If Meg hadn't been able to share this story with us, she might have ended up miserable in an office feeling guilty and trying to ignore the fact that she'd rather be by herself. Crisis averted, thankfully. It's so easy to hand over your power. In a world where we've been cultured to always respect authority, bow down to degrees and job titles, and make decisions that are based in logic rather than our own intuition or feelings, it's really easy to hand our power away. And to be fair, there's an uncomfortable truth to all of this. It's more convenient to dismiss your own intuition and trust experts instead. If we hand over our authority to an expert, we don't have to think for ourselves. We never have to struggle with figuring out how we feel or what our intuition is telling us. We can outsource all of that messiness to someone who will just tell us what to do, which sounds way easier in the moment. Except if it isn't clear by now, allow me to say, no one is more of an expert on you than you. It doesn't matter if they've been to school for a decade, or worked with thousands of people, or acquired huge fame and renown in their field, they will never know you better than you do. So, let's not hand our power over to people who will never know what it's like to be us. Let's become our own damn experts. And let's agree to the following. You don't have to trust an expert, ever. Regardless of their accomplishments, titles and degrees don't say a lot about someone's character or, frankly, their abilities. It's like that joke about the doctor who graduates last in his class still being a doctor. If you get a vibe, like you just don't like someone even if you can't figure out why, or you feel something is off even though there's no quote-unquote evidence, listen to it. Your gut instincts count more than someone else's expertise. It never hurts to get a second opinion, particularly when the stakes are high. You don't need to poll everyone in your life before you make a decision. You're capable of making good choices all on your own. If it's a choice between doing what feels good, right, and aligned for you versus listening to an expert who recommends the opposite of what makes you feel good, always do what makes you feel good. You are the authority on you, period. So, when have you trusted an expert instead of yourself? What happened? Come share with me in the comments.
Okay, so I know we have some new people because we did a survey a few weeks ago and we had some people saying, hey, I just found you in the last week or the last few weeks. So welcome to Clarity on Fire. If you are new, the very best place to start is to take our quiz, the Passion Profile Quiz. Do you want to give a little description of what that is if people are like, what the hell is the Passion Profile Quiz?
It's 11 questions. Hundreds of thousands of people have taken it. It'll take you 2 minutes. It measures the intersection between your career and your passion, and it helps you figure out what one of 4 different profiles you might be and how you are best meant to combine your work with your passion in life. It's an excellent place to start.
Super quick.
Unconventional place to start compared to where most people would have you start, which is, what am I passionate about? Nope, that's the wrong answer. You need to start with how you're meant to combine your career and your passion before you go off and try to figure out what you're passionate about. So start there.
Okay, so if you have taken the quiz, which I think most people have, that's usually how they find us. But if you have taken the quiz, a really good next place to go is we have done a few ebooks, 4 in particular, where we compiled some of our most popular blog posts that are around a particular theme. And if you don't want to have to sift back through years, literally years of blog posts, this is a really good way to get a whole collection of them on one particular topic. So there's a couple that we want to point out today. One of them is called, What is the Point? A jolt of hope and practical advice for anyone going through an existential crisis. Another one you might be interested in, What am I meant to do with my life? Almost everything we know about finding your passion and having a fulfilling career. So if those sound interesting, we have links in the episode description where you can go and download that ebook. And it's a good way to get to know us and our content a little bit better, but also maybe help you answer those questions that you are probably having yourself.
The link is just to all 4. It takes you to the page where all 4 of the ebooks are.
Oh, even better. So those are just 2.
Just 2. Yeah, so who knows, baby girl? You might have some other topics that are even more exciting to you, or boy, or anyone. You, they. I don't care what or who you identify as. Everyone has no idea what the point of life is, and pretty much everyone who's here listening to this is like, what is my passion? How do I stop freaking out? How do I not be overwhelmed? Why am I confused?
What's
Why
the point
am I
of life?
directionless?
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's the thing we all have in common, I find. That pretty much when I talk to everybody, what it gets down to, regardless of what you look like on the outside or where you grew up or whatever, is that the core human experience really does not change.
Which is why we've written so much about it, which is why we decided to just compile all of that into categories.
Yeah. So go download that. It's free. Why wouldn't you? What are you doing? All right. We'll be back on Friday. Oh. We have a bonus book club. Because if you're new, we sometimes have 5 Fridays in a month, as it turns out, chronologically speaking. And chronologically speaking, what is the word? It's like relevant to the calendar. You know what I'm saying?
Chronologically is time, so that's close.
I know, but I feel like there's a word that I'm thinking of. Oh my God, there's nothing worse than if someone knows what you're trying to say and then they can't.
People are yelling it out now.
I'm sorry. I apologize. But anyway, yeah, sometimes there's 5 Fridays in a month. And on the 5th extra Friday, few times a year when this happens, we do a bonus book club episode where we dive into a book that we love and we want you to know about. So we're doing that on Friday. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I will tell you the subject. It's about money. So if that sounds intriguing to you, and I'm not talking about a dry book about making money.
No, this is not about budgeting.
Taught by some dork.
And investing.
Whatever. I don't read books written by dorks. Actually, I probably do. I think I am a dork. No, I'm a nerd, and I think those are very different things.
I agree. I actually agree with that.
Okay. All right. This has gone slightly too far off kilter. So let's rein it back in.
Right. Well, we will see you guys on Friday, where we're going to do some book clubbing.
Get your nerd on. Bye.
Bye.